Let's start by bringing in Luke Beckman. He is the Situational Awareness Manager for the American Red Cross, and he served as the Operations and Logistics Leader for the Multinational Coalition Center here in the Philippines after Typhoon Haiyan. So, Luke, welcome.
Thanks. Good afternoon. My name is Luke Beckman, and I served as the Operations and Logistics Lead for the Multinational Coordination Center based out of Mactan Air Base in Cebu, Philippines for the 2 weeks following Typhoon Haiyan. Typhoon Haiyan, when it made landfall, was the strongest typhoon ever recorded to make landfall at 195 miles per hour. There were over 6,000 people killed and over 11 million impacted or affected. What I'd like to do today is show you what I saw through my eyes, through my ears, through our experience as a multinational team. I'm going to start with a video that shows you what I saw, and then we're going to go into some of the lessons learned that you can take back with you to your teams, homes, communities, nations, focusing on resilience.
Take the first 44. You stay with your mom. We'll get you out tomorrow. I told her anyway. Okay, go ahead.
So we've got 44 moving to Clark on the V-22s. It's like this just about every time. This is a little 41 it is.
Hey, and they all know they're going to Clark.
Clark, not Manila. No Manila, Clark. Okay, Clark Air Base. Clark Air Base. Okay, we have 41. Okay.
41?
Yeah, 41. Just check, because it'll take too long. We have to go now.
Okay.
In Mactan Air Base, we had, at any one time in any given day, over 14 countries, over 30 nonprofit organizations, moving cargo and people by land, by air, and by sea, predominantly by air. We were flying to 6 different destinations, and on any given day, we had about 30 flights moving 1 million pounds of cargo, over 1,000 evacuees, and about 250 international responders. The points that I'd like to cover today: simplify, ask the 5 W's: who, what, where, why, and when. Share, innovate, focus on your customer, sweat the small stuff, build trust, establish a battle rhythm and establish it early, sustain, and lastly, be humble. Let me paint a little bit of a picture. We had 3 Doctors Without Borders, Médecins Sans Frontières, groups working out of Mactan. We had 3 Red Cross national societies. We had forklifts that were British, Korean, Filipino, and Australian. We had pallets that were British, Australian, and Kiwi, or from New Zealand. We had straps, pallet straps, that were Australian and Kiwi. We had crews that were Korean, British, Australian, and Kiwi. 30 minutes of a normal day looked like this. We're sitting in a briefing, planning the loads for the next day. All of a sudden, the Swedish aircraft component commander, Rolf, comes in saying we have a problem. What could go wrong? Well, it turns out we had a flight that was bound for Gi-1. It had Gi-1 cargo. It had medics and medical teams that were bound for Gi-1. It also had Tacloban cargo set right in the middle of the aircraft. Now, what's the problem with that? That aircraft can't actually go anywhere with the wrong cargo. So, without radio sprinting back and forth, trying to reroute the plane, trying to make new things happen, get new flight paths, we had to actually end up hot offloading the plane into Gi-1, then to Tacloban, and then back home with about 15 minutes of spare fuel. The problem was that the plane broke down in Gi-1. It happened just about every day. Why did that happen? We had Korean loading crews loading Belgian MSF cargo that fortunately was labeled with duct tape onto Australian pallets with Kiwi straps onto a Swedish plane that normally flew to any one of 5 airfields. We flew C-130s that could have been loaded any one of 12 different ways. We flew Antonovs, the big ones and the small ones, 747s, V-22 Ospreys, and private charter aircraft. We had crews that could fly in all conditions, some that could only fly during the day, some that couldn't fly in fog, and some that could only land and fly on short or medium length or long runways. Anything that could go wrong did go wrong. But my job and the job of our team was to make all of this run smoothly and make it look effortless. 6 days after I arrived in Mactan somewhere 48 to 72 hours after the typhoon made landfall. 95% of all flights that we had control over left fully loaded with the correct cargo, going to the right destination with every crew and plane flying the max number of flights per day. Simplify. Map your landscape. Process map. Even in the most complex environments, you can always break things down. This is a piece of paper that shows everything I just described on a tiny little index card. By breaking it down, you can actually understand the problem and you can work to fix that problem. Ask the 5 W's, as I said, who, what, where, why, and when. My favorite is why. If you don't understand, there are other people who probably don't understand. If you don't understand, it means it's not going to work and something is going to break or fall apart. What you have here is a whiteboard, standard old whiteboard that you get from the store, and this actually has all of the daily flight information. But it took us 72 hours from the time I arrived, so almost a week after the typhoon made landfall, to understand what was going on with the flights. Who was flying them? When were they going? Where were they going? How were they getting there? What were they carrying? The only way we got that was by asking why. Share. How many of you like sharing? Anybody? A couple of you. How many of you like getting things? All right, I see more hands. Sharing is critical. If you're that first person to share, chances are people are going to want to share things back with you, whether it's supplies, resources, or information. In this case, I'm talking about information. Keep your information that you share focused, relevant, and timely. Hopefully, it's also accurate. If it's not accurate, then nobody's going to want to share back with you. This is the listing of a Google spreadsheet that we use to coordinate all supply movement. By the time I left, 2 weeks after the typhoon made landfall, this spreadsheet was shared with 60 organizations, national agencies, countries, and individuals. And they had full permission to share this with anyone and everyone. Innovate. Get a system in place, get it in place early. In a disaster or crisis, no one's going to show up with the same system. If they do, you're lucky, and count yourself very, very lucky for that to happen. But in most cases, that's not going to be the case. And so, with innovation, you have to start thinking outside of the box. How do you find something that everyone can leverage, that they can use, that's easy, that they want to use, that they'll use over and over, that they'll tell everyone about? This is actually a screenshot of the real live spreadsheet that we were using. You can see the date, the country, the vessel, the type of aircraft, the call sign of the aircraft, because we had multiple aircraft from each country. You can see the origin of the flight. A lot of those are Mactan. You see the destinations, the loading start times, the loading end times, the estimated time of departure, the estimated time of arrival, the actual time of departure, and the actual time of arrival. You can see the weight allowance, the cargo, were there any passengers on board? You can also see, did the plane take off? Was it delayed? Do we have to reroute it or switch it? You also see historical flight missions, everything that we've done in the past, everything from today and everything from the next day. Focus on your customer. This is actually the group of people that you saw in the video that were in the fenced-in area that were moving out to an aircraft. They had been waiting to go back home to get essential medical supplies to their family members for 3 days. I heard about this in 2 hours. We had them on an airplane. Why focus on your customer? Because it's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about my team. It's about the people we're trying to serve. And these people needed to get medical supplies to their family members. They actually knew better than we did about where relief was needed. They were on their phones. Notice almost everybody there is staring at a phone. When there was service, they were texting, they were talking. Welcome to the Philippines. I love it. There is so much social media and so much texting that goes on. And so by working with the evacuees and working with our customers, we were able to understand the needs of the community. We were able to understand where people needed relief, where they needed supplies, and what types of supplies they needed. You can get caught up in the moment very easily. There might be a problem, something breaks down, you've got a boss, you've got a teammate who just really annoys or frustrates you. But if you keep coming back to your customer and you keep focusing on them, then you will succeed. Sweat the small stuff. Every little bit matters. Identify your problems, focus on your problems, and really, really, really focus on your problems. And you can do that by sweating the small stuff. In an area where you have 11 million people who are impacted, every single pound matters, whether it's food, whether it's medicine, or whether it's water. By focusing on the small stuff, you show the people who own the supplies, it shows them that you care. It shows them that you're focused on all of those little problems and that you want to improve, and you're going to be able to innovate and then move forward from there. Build trust. This picture here is collaboration at its best. Look at the body language. Everyone is leaned in. You have Swedes, Australians, South Koreans. You have Americans. You have the Brits. You have the Kiwis. You have Filipinos, Singaporeans, Bruneians, and Indonesians all sitting at that table. It is a wonderful, it's like the Olympics. Everyone's collaborating. If you look in the left, that guy in the blue, he's from the World Food Program. Sean, he was their logistics lead. It took him a week to get inside the Tactical Operations Center, but that was done by building trust. Establish a battle rhythm. What that means, we call it, in the United States with the Incident Command System, we call it an operational period. And that's a set where it's a time period where you have defined priorities, objectives, strategies, and tactics. When you get those in place, you might have a schedule. You'll have a contact roster. You have phone numbers and emails. Post all of that information in a common area. Share it. Sharing is a big theme here. Live by your plan, but don't die by it. Be willing to innovate and be willing to change. Sustain. Sustainability is key. I was only supposed to be on the ground supporting the AFP for about a week. I stayed for 2 weeks. But my goal from day one was to make myself irrelevant and disappear and then let things happen after I was gone. What you see here is a spreadsheet. It's just another tab on that Google spreadsheet that was built by the Philippine Navy. I didn't know about it. We didn't know what was going on, and they actually ended up deleting all of our flight information. We fixed that night. But what you see here is something that was used for over a month after I left because it was easy, it worked, people could easily share it, and it was accurate. Be humble. It's not about you. It's not about your team. It's about the full picture, and it's about your customers. If you work to support your team and you put them first, they will be there to support you. I made some amazing friends, but it was a global team that came together, and as a team, we were able to be successful. Thank you for your time, and if you would like to understand a little bit more with more information and more details, feel free to go to that link there. That's my blog, and I have a very long write-up with all the details of what happened on a day-by-day account. Thank you very much.
Luke, thanks so much for giving us a bit of insight there and a sense of what it was like on the ground in the aftermath of the typhoon for people like yourselves. And we'll have a chance to chat to Luke a little bit very shortly.